I'm Dr. Lisa Eckert. I'm the Dean of Graduate Studies and Research, if you haven't met me already. And we're here just to kind of walk through the whole process, ask questions at any time, and we will answer them because we know the answers to all of them, obviously, so far anyway, but maybe just the right one. The tricksy one that will keep us all focused and keep our attention focused. So I'm Lisa Eckert. Professor Strahan, introduce yourself. Oh, we can't hear you. Wait, don't talk anymore. Mike, we can't hear you. Hear you.
Sorry about that.
Oh, there we go.
Had to turn the
Oh,
phone
you're
off.
muted.
I'm not muted
Start
now.
Start over.
Okay. I'm Professor Mike Strahan from the NMU Lydia M. Olson Library.
Say more about yourself. What do you do at the library?
I'm the library liaison to the College of Graduate Studies and Research. I am also the distance ed librarian. I'm also liaison to quite a number of different programs, some of which have graduate programs. And right now I'm teleworking from Milwaukee, Wisconsin right now.
Is it snowing in Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
We're supposed to get snow tonight. It was 60 on Wednesday.
Ooh, 60 on Wednesday. You know,
52 on Tuesday.
ooh. Well, thanks for being here, Professor Strahan. We really appreciate it. I should also tell you that Professor Strahan is the knowledgeable one on APA documentation if you ever have questions, but not just APA, all documentation. That's why he so generously joins us this workshop every year. So Professor Strahan and I have been doing this for a while. We tag team, between two of us, we know everything. Right? And since Mike is a reference librarian, he doesn't know the answer to something. He sure knows how to find out. So, and he's usually in the library, though I have not been to Bruce Hall to see what it looks like there. But they can normally find you there once you return to campus, correct?
I'm there afternoons and I telework evenings from 8 until 11 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday.
And Professor Strahan, are you willing to answer questions on a regular basis in your position?
Absolutely.
So see who he is. He's a very friendly person and he will go out of his way to help you in any meeting. As will we. Do you want to take us? Are we going to eat first?
Yeah, they can grab some pizza if they want. I'm sorry, I ordered it a little bit late, so it was a little bit late getting here. But there's a meat pizza, a veggie pizza, and the breadsticks.
Hey, get pizza. We'll wait while you get your plates. And
I do have a sign-in sheet coming around. I forgot to print one up, so it's a makeshift.
We have pita chips and then we have.
I just need,
that's fine. No, that's good.
Riley, you just said we needed name and,
Hummus,
We just need their name.
okay, perfect. It's for.
and their plates are ready for you.
I wish that I should have ordered.
They still seem hungry. If we run out, we'll order more and have them delivered.
Well, why are you nothing?
Oh, well, yes, I'll have to order it on.
Do I keep it or do I keep it?
I do. You can make me here. Da-da-da-da. Really, I don't know if there's much as far as running.
I've worked maybe like 5 times.
So, can you
Hope
see?
you had it done by then. You will, so, yeah, should be good then.
You're right.
I don't know if it's the kind of Zoom.
Your body language.
I'll log on. I'll just put on there.
Okay, thank you. She was just, students log into the Zoom because I had sent them. She was going to get our,
I think it's up here, which is totally A-okay.
No, Riley.
Oh gosh, people will be really into that for sure.
On
Did you
in.
see that video that was supposed to be?
Yeah, we were gonna lock the door, but we decided not to.
Yep, welcome. It's great to see
We're
you.
having a snack.
This is. They're gonna. Yeah.
Perfect, that's fine. I just felt that having Riley bring.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to help.
Our goal today really is, and I said this once already, but for those of you who came in, we are answering any questions that you have, ask away throughout the presentation. You have the people in this room now who've done this for a while, well,
Sorry, yeah.
and we can answer pretty much any question that you have. So we try to anticipate. We've done these for a long time, but we might have the question that we didn't think of. So we always. And I've introduced myself.
I am Sarah Amadon. I am the Assistant Director of Graduate Student Affairs. I have been in this position since November. I have been with the university for about 6 years. I have played roles, I've held positions in housing along with equal opportunity in Title IX. I still do equal opportunity in Title IX work along with being the Assistant Director of Graduate Student Affairs. And I will say this is by far my favorite position that I have held on campus, not just because of the office that I work in, but because of the students that I get to work with. I didn't realize when I left housing how much I was going to miss having that direct contact with students. And I enjoy working with graduate students because you're a little bit more self-sufficient and
We don't have to do that much.
I like, I just like seeing where you're going and, you know, the stage that you're at, you know, in life. You've been out of the house for a couple of years generally, and you kind of have an idea of where you're going to go. And I enjoy working with that. So I also do stuff with GSA and the 3-minute thesis. And so these are the types of things that you'll be seeing me at, are these workshops and whatnot that our department puts on, because those are the things that I tend to be in charge of. So
Right, let's go.
let's get going. So we're gonna go around and we're gonna just do some quick introductions. I'm gonna turn this camera around so Professor Strahan can see you. And so we're gonna just do some introductions. I want you to tell me who you are, your name, your program, the stage of the thesis that you're in, and then what do you hope to learn from us today? I will go first. My name is Sarah Amadon. I'm still deciding on a master's program. I do not have a master's degree yet. So I'm looking into probably the MIS program, and I have some ideas of what I want to kind of combine, but I haven't 100% committed to anything yet. My thesis would most likely surround higher education. I am really interested also in elementary education. I did literacy intervention for several years. I loved it. But I don't necessarily want to go into teaching. So possibly if I could combine something like that. I love teaching kids to read. I love teaching. It's amazing. So higher education or reading intervention. And I hope to learn how to make this presentation more helpful to you. So you guys are here to learn something. I'm here to learn something as well. I'm always wanting to tweak things to make them a little bit better for the next time around.
Okay, I'm Katie. I'm in the biology program. I am currently writing a thesis and just kind of want to review some of the formatting things with that.
I'm Andrea. I'm also biology program and working on revisions to my thesis. And again, yeah, just formatting stuff, making sure it's up to standards.
Perfect.
Yusuf, just as science, and
My name is Miles. I'm in the administration of outdoor recreation. I'm doing data collection as well, and I'm looking for some formatting advice.
I'm Frankie. I'm in the English MFA. I do not know what my thesis is going to be. I'm a first year. And I guess I just hope to learn more about the process.
Very wise.
That is wise.
Yeah, my name's Sarah. I'm also an English MFA student. And I'm also in the exact same phase as Frankie. I'm just kind of getting a vibe for it.
Cool.
I'm Abby. I'm an English MA student, and just like the two people who have gone before me, I'm also a first year, so I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm excited to find out.
Exactly why I like master's students, thinking ahead.
Hi, my name is Carmen. I'm also in the English program for the MA. I'm here mostly because the thesis proposal is coming up soon, at least for the English department, to learn more about what I have to write for that specifically.
I'm Jen and I'm a literature MA and same reason for the thesis proposal and thinking about formatting.
Perfect.
I am Taylor. I am a literature MA too, and I am in the process of drafting my thesis proposal and then beginning it.
Yeah, my name is Jordan. Hello. I am also from the English department. I'm FA first year. Don't know what my thesis is, but I'm hoping to learn a little bit about what the college requires for thesis so that it's in my mind going forward.
I'm Riley. I'm an MIS student. I'm currently writing my thesis and I'm here because it's my job. I'm Leah. I'm an MIS student and I'm about to start my data collection. I'm Emily. I'm in the biology program. I'm also writing and looking forward to some. I'm Riley. I'm in the biology department and I'm finishing up the analysis stage of my project. So I'm just hoping to learn a little bit about like hard deadlines and stuff for like this semester and summer semester.
I'm Ari. I'm also in the MFA program, second year. So I've started writing my thesis and my work is very hybrid in form. So really looking forward to learning about the format so I can know how to make that meet the guidelines.
My name is Barbara. I'm a second year in the MFA program for the English department. I'm also currently writing my thesis for a semester taking like thesis dedicated credits. So I'm here to learn like must-haves in that format today.
Sophie, third year, I'm a creative writing my thesis, hoping to make the formatting as smooth as possible so that I can just like get done with it and format it and send it in.
Not hear any more from us after we submit it, right?
Exactly.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. We're excited to have you. I think next, Lisa, did you want to do this part or do you want me to? Okay.
I wanted to start by talking a little bit about what happened in front of Congress and with the Harvard president. You are all aware of this, right? And how people went back 20 years to her dissertation and noted some plagiarism. And our job here and the goal that we have for you is that no one will ever have to ever go through and find any single thing in your thesis, because your thesis will end up being published on ProQuest, and Professor Strahan will talk a little bit more about this as we go. But we just want to make sure that this process goes as smoothly for you as possible, but that we're also paying attention to the pitfalls that can happen now and the pitfalls that we are going to help you avoid for later. So that's the ultimate goal. As you know, a thesis is your scholarly work. This is the culmination of the work that you've been doing in your program. You and your advisor know all about the content. We don't question content. The only time we question content is when it is violating copyright rules. And again, we're going to talk about that later in the presentation. So we're just here to help and to oversee and make sure that we're all good for now and forever. Oh,
it is.
Oops, that's not what I wanted.
Yes, it's not a Mac.
There we go. Sorry, I know.
No, that's okay.
Your thesis committee is the committee that you've put together. There are people who are overseeing that process. It's kind of behind the scenes for you. Your faculty members have to have graduate faculty status. They get graduate faculty status from the Graduate Programs Committee. That committee meets monthly and determines which level of faculty member or a visiting faculty member, or some of you might even have another reader who is part of your thesis committee, and that's great. We really encourage that. And we just monitor those records for the faculty member to ensure that the people who are working with you on your thesis are the qualified people to be seeing you through this project. So if you have not yet chosen your committee, that's fine. The thesis director or the chair or advisor, it's all the same thing. It depends on the program. Some programs call them one thing, some call them another. That person is your point person, right? That's the most important person you'll be working with. And then you have one or two or sometimes three other readers on your committee. We don't serve on your committee. We just kind of oversee and are in contact with your committee members. We're also in close contact with the program director in your departments at all times, and just sort of helping to oversee all of that. So any questions on choosing a committee, or is there anyone who has issues with selecting their committee? If you're interested in kind of going outside the normal realm of things, that's fine. Talk to us first and we can help you and make sure that everything's, talk to your advisor, talk to the program director if they're not the same person, and then we're in contact with them as well. Yes.
You talk about like outside faculty sitting on committees.
So outside faculty members, a faculty member from another institution are welcome to participate. You can select an external member of to be on your committee. That person can't be the chair. The chair has to be a faculty member here at Northern. That's level 3 status, just so you know. We also have level 1 and level 2. Level 1 is for someone who might not be at Northern or someone who might not have the requisite degree. There are rules that we follow, but that person can be a reader on your committee too. So if you are really thinking, the advantage of having an external member of your committee is if you are doing something that will help you, if you're looking to go on for a PhD somewhere, for example, and there is a faculty member at an institution where you are planning to go, where you're hoping to apply, then could be that one of those people might be interested in being on your committee. We kind of wrangle them because we don't offer them anything. We don't say, oh yeah, we'll pay you. No, we don't. They're doing it out of the goodness of their hearts because they are contributing to the progression of the profession in the field, and also because they are interested in helping you and maybe working with the other faculty members who are on your committee. So it's always interesting to have external members of your committee, and that is completely up to you and your advisor. But if you know you want to do that, it's good to do that sooner rather than later, because they have to go through GPC, Graduate Programs Committee, to get the approval for the appropriate level so they can be on your committee. So.
This is just talking to Janelle. Janelle can't be here, and she is the director of the graduate office. And she had mentioned that when you're choosing the person who you want to be your chair, make sure it's somebody that you can, like easily contact, that's going to be accessible to you. And she had said, if it's hard to like get a hold of them, just to ask if they will do it. It could be hard to communicate them the rest of the time through the process. It's not necessarily always the case, but just be sure it's somebody who is easily accessible, because it's somebody you're going to have to be, in contact with on a regular basis.
And it might be that you want to make sure you have a relationship with them where it's back and forth, right? So you have access to that person, but you should also talk about the structure of the committee. So some committee chairs want to have the whole thesis together before the readers are brought into the picture. And others have the readers as part of the process all along. So it kind of depends on the faculty member, but you too, this is your project. This is your thesis. This is your committee. And you can also indicate what you want out of this committee. So and if you are working with your faculty member and you're not getting the response you want, and I'm not saying anything negative, I'm just giving you this advice. Talk to your program director if they're not the same person. You can talk to the department head, but you can always talk to us, because I'll get on the phone if there's someone who isn't responding to you like you need, because our goal is for you to have a great experience, learn things, be proud of yourselves, and submit that thesis on time without being stressed too much. But that committee is very, very important to you. They have a lot of power, and sometimes you can feel a little bit lost in that process. So we're here to help you know where you are and how you are progressing all the way through. Questions?
It's not really a question. I guess it's just like some advice for the first year since I've been through this process, but make sure your thesis committee gets along. Because mine did not. They do not, and it has been absolute help. But things have the storm has calmed, but definitely make sure they get along.
You should let us know that. But I understand it's a frightening thing to call us and say, I don't know, I'm really struggling, because you need them to offer you support, and you also need them to just sign off on the document at the end of the day. So it's kind of a dance, and we understand that too. So yeah, that's a drag. That adds a little bit to the stress level. And that's a question you can very specifically ask your program director, your advisor, the person you select to be your chair. Who do you think will work well with us on this committee? And again, if you have questions about that, you can talk to us, to each other, because look around you, you're all in the same position, you're in the same place, and you have resources just amongst you, to support one another in this process. Questions about the committee? Or any other examples or experiences you want to share at this point? So you would be the first one to come through in the outdoor rec.
Sweet.
Isn't a new term.
That's awesome.
It's really a good metaphor for outdoor recreation.
Absolutely.
Get it? Plays in a new term. And Dr. Jordan is fabulous, and it'll be fine. But just I wanted to acknowledge and recognize that you are.
Yeah, thanks.
You're setting the tone. Oh, the approval form. Here it is. This is the thesis approval form. This form, you fill this out with your advisor. Now, it's important for you to remember that the advisor must send us this form. You don't send us this form. The advisor sends us this form. It's the same as with a directed study. You don't send us the directed study, your advisor does, because we just have to make sure that the advisor's on board, that this is something that is approved in the department and goes forward. We don't approve your proposals. The proposals are all in your department with your faculty members, and each program is a little bit different. Some of them require defenses, some of them don't. But the thesis proposal approval form must be on file with us, signed with a copy of the proposal. So, because we have to have that on record. So if there's an issue later, I can pull that out and say to whomever is creating an issue, it's right here, we have it. This was approved a long time ago, so let's get this moving along. So this is partially how we advocate for you. It also helps you if there's a problem with the thesis proposal, good to resolve that problem before you move forward. And this might be the first step that you call us and say, wait a minute, we're having a little issue, help me out here. And we'll do everything that we can. But we do not approve the content of the thesis proposal. That's done in your department, that's done with your faculty, because they're all a little bit different. Questions? Yes.
You have to have IRB and IACUC approval before you can submit your proposal to be approved. So you have
If you are conducting a study with human subjects or with animals, so if you're working in the labs, the mouse labs, the rat labs, or sometimes, and so for the biology folk, sometimes in wildlife, not very often, that becomes kind of a gray area. You're not, you're working with poop. Thank you, Riley. That's a really critical moment in your project. So that's something that your advisor should be able to help you with. If you're taking, most of us aren't like drawing blood from people, but there are other ways that you have to have consent for your subjects. So if you're concerned about that, let us know. Joseph, you can probably talk about that a little bit too, because you had subjects that you had to go through IRB. That was particularly vulnerable and important segment of the population. Yeah, go ahead, talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, it was actually, well, I never used Cayuse for my IRB approval, so that was before that. So I just filled out the sheet.
Yep, that's the proposal.
Yeah, the IRB proposal or that, and then just sent it to the IRB, and then a couple weeks later, they're like, hey, simplify a little bit more. I had to include my consent form in there. I also had like a flyer. I was using a flyer, so I had to include that in there. And I was sending out like emails, so I had to include like exactly word for word, like the email I was gonna send out. So all that needs to be included. And then I sent it to them, and they sent it back with like some revisions and some comments, and then I did all that, and then they sent it back, and then they're like, you're good. And then as I've gone throughout, like I have made like slight modifications, so I would like send those modifications. There's like a whole nother form for IRB modifications. I don't know if that's Cayuse. I don't know how that works, but
It does now, but that's a whole
okay, yeah. So, and then I would do like a modification, and then they would, because I'm working with like people who are 6 years or older, and then I would, after that modification, I would kind of say why I was modifying it the way I was, and then they would send it to them. They'd send me like a, modification approval. That was kind of like my experience with it. It wasn't like a too stressful of an experience for me. Then again, I haven't used Cayuse. It was just like emailing back and forth. So
It's interesting because this is the first level of compliance that we monitor. So when you're just getting started, that is how we make sure that your subjects are taken care of. That's IRB. IRB is the Institutional Review Board, and that is required by the federal government for research compliance. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. Go ahead.
One of my professors just told me this, I didn't know, but if you are using human subjects and like you're doing like a clinical trial, you actually have to get it like registered.
Yes.
Yeah, so I didn't know about, you can speak more.
City training, and yes, so we help with all of that. We are responsible for IACUC committees, and for IACUC is the animal use, Institutional Animal Care Use Committee, IACUC. And those two committees, I'm the institutional official, so I'm ultimately responsible for all of the research that happens on campus that involves human subjects. And we have to adhere to federal guidelines and comply with federal rules. First step is city training, CITI. Some of you may have been through city training already. And then the second is when you write out your protocol, and those protocols go to these review committees. The IRB here at Northern is so fast. It always blows my mind. I started my career at Purdue University, moved to Montana State, and then I came here. At Purdue, it could take 6 months before you hear anything from the IRB. Here, it's like 2 weeks. Blows my mind. So that's really nice. And the chair is Dr. Derek Anderson from Education. And he is so fast at responding to questions. If you have an IRB question, you're not sure, Maybe you do need IRB approval, maybe you don't. You will be able to answer that question. For IACUC, it's so much more clear. You know when you're gonna use them, you're gonna have a mouse, you are working in those labs, that's pretty straightforward. And the compliance rules for IACUC are very straightforward as well. IRB is very interesting. And where you sometimes have to think twice, but the compliance is the consent form. Consent form is so those are those two, and your faculty advisor will be able to tell you if you require that, but you should ask the question in advance. Don't wait, because that can catch up with you later. We will not approve a thesis that had human subjects but did not get IRB approval. We will not approve a thesis that used animals and did not get IACUC approval, or a letter, and we're going to show you that in a minute, the letter that tells you that you don't need it. You are not the PI. PI is the primary investigator. Only your faculty mentors can be the PIs. So they are technically they're technically the ones who are running the proposal, but obviously it's your research. You just can't be PIs. That's a federal rule. That should happen before you submit the approval form. How do I sign up for this? It's a good question. You cannot sign up for thesis credits until you have your approved thesis. Those are $5.99s. Though we register you for those courses, you don't register online like you do for all of your other classes, because we have to check to make sure that you are approved for a thesis, approved for all of your research, that your faculty are all on board, all's good to go. Then we will register you for your $5.99s. Each of your departments has a different $5.99. Some of them have different course descriptions depending upon the program that you're in. That has to also come from your advisor. You don't send us these forms, the advisor sends us these forms. That way we know that we're all on the same page. Questions about that? That is after you've had your thesis approved, after you've conducted the research. Biology has $5.89s. Biology students have a lot of flexibility in the $5.89s from the research course. That's not the same as thesis credits. In English doesn't have that. English has the workshops if you're in the MFA. So you go through those workshops before you sign up for your thesis credits. Thesis credits should be when you are working on the writing of the thesis. So some of you are enrolled in those right now. Some of you are thinking about when that's going to happen. And it's not when you're conducting research, it's when you're writing. Now, I say that because I'm an administrator. I know that really it's a little mushier than that, because you may not be quite done. MFA has 12 thesis credits required. That's the most on campus. The biology has 4. So it just kind of depends on where you fall in that spectrum. But you can't sign up for those until you have an approved thesis and your research is pretty much done. We'll say it's done. You don't tell us if it's done. These credits, you can split them between semesters, but again, not till after your thesis is approved. You can take 2 thesis credits one semester, 2 thesis credits another semester. It's really the way that you work it out with your faculty member. Obviously, MFA, you're not going to take all 12 in one semester. You could, I suppose. We frown on that, it's a lot. But there, what else does this say? Plan your thesis. We said that already. 7 years. Oh, this is a good point. So once you've taken the $5.99 credits are not usually A through F. You don't get a letter grade. And if you are taking them, particularly in MFA, you take the first 4, you get an R grade for those because you're not done. It's nothing wrong with an R grade. You get an R grade, don't freak out. But if you don't finish the thesis within the timeline, then that reverts to a U instead of staying an R. You can graduate with an R grade on your transcript. And so there's just that. Once you take that 599, you are locked into a time. And the 599 time frame is 3 years. The program is 7 years. So, just, you know, we don't run into that very often, but every once in a while. Questions on that? Let's just say you need more time. Let's just say you need an extension. Your advisor contacts me, says, we need an extension. Here's the proposal. And then most of the time I will approve that, but it has to be approved. This is an HLC requirement. HLC is the Higher Learning Commission. They are the university accreditor. And so as long as we have a plan of study in place for an extension, then we can do that. But it has to be your advisor who puts in that request.
When, like, let's say you were planning on being done like this semester, but you need to go into the summer, when would you need that by?
Let us know as soon as possible. Understand also, and this is a sticky point. If you have gotten through all of your credits and you just needed a little more time, so thesis is due
This year or this semester?
April 5th. So it gets to be April 5th and you are not done. Then you will be registered for GD 593 for the winter. It's a 1 credit, or excuse me, for the summer. It's a 1 credit class. And that's how you extend your time so that you can finish your thesis. But you have to be registered for that course in order to continue accessing university facilities, faculty, laptop, library, us, everything. So there's a 1 credit course for which you will be charged if you don't finish that in time. Is that a disaster? No. Do you want to pay for it? Probably not. So but it's really important that you know that sometimes advisors forget to tell you that. And then you get a bad surprise that you registered for a course and you think we're mean. No, now we're not mean, but it is a compliance issue for us for HLC. And I saw.
Yeah, if you had like get the Excellence in Ed grant, would that credit cover, would that be the 1 credit?
Yes. Or if it's another credit that you want to take, maybe you do a directed study with your faculty mentor for the summer. That's fine too. You have to be registered for at least 1 credit. Doesn't have to be GD 593, but the good thing about that is you don't have anything you have to do for that class. It's a place marker. I'm the instructor of record. Just so you know, it's nothing. Other than I have graduate faculty status and am qualified to put the S in for your grade and send it over to the registrar at the end of the semester. Yes.
So if you do take that credit for the summer, when would be like the new date to turn in your thesis by?
July 12th. It's always 1 month before the end of the semester in which you're hoping to finish. And it might be that you say to us, because you need to let us know if you're going to graduate, you register for graduation. If you didn't do that and you think you're graduating this year, do it now, not right as soon as we're done with this. But so we know who is supposed to graduate. If you know that you are not, because you really tried to get done, dang it, you're going to give yourself a break. Nothing wrong with that. Breathe a little bit deeply, then give yourself a few more weeks to finish. That's fine. You just let us know so that we're making sure that we are monitoring and keeping track of where you are, but not requiring something of you that it's not time yet to require.
What does it mean for them if they need extra time on their thesis, so they have to go into the summer, but they were planning on walking in the ceremony? Is that something that they have to hold off on, or?
You can walk in the ceremony early. So again, if you just don't think you're going to hit that April 5th deadline, you can still walk in graduation. We're in winter now for the winter semester. Or you can wait and walk in the next one in December. So you just kind of decide, you let us know, tell me who you're in our office, we'll take care of it. No worries, as long as we know. There's always a few we don't know what we're supposed to do with when it gets towards graduation. responsible conduct of research. This is the compliance issue that we were talking about before. Let's see. Central to reliability, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read what's on this slide because I know that you can read it yourselves. But it does bring up the working collaboratively. And in some programs, that collaborative work is the norm. Biology is one of them where it might be that you're doing your work in collaboration with your faculty mentor, with what some other students are doing. That acknowledgement goes in your thesis in the acknowledgement section. We'll look at those sections in a minute. But you should acknowledge who else you've been working with, who's contributed to the work that you're doing. You should acknowledge any funding that you have received. Yeah, it's good for you to do that because then anybody who's reading your thesis knows that you're amazing and you have this funding. If it's an award that's funding it, if it's a grant that's funding it, that can go in there too. And you should also acknowledge your citation method, and Professor Strahan's going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes. Peer review, publication practices, responsible authorship. That again is a little bit different by program, but the peer review that happens here is in your department and then in our office, because we take a look at that too. You are reviewed in our office 3 times before your thesis is accepted and posted. So that's why it has to be a month in advance, especially in April. My goodness, we have so many amazing things. And sometimes they're so interesting. And we read them and we offer you feedback if necessary. The ideal situation is that the thesis comes in, it's fine. We read it, we say, oh my God, this person's amazing. Click approve and you're off to the races. The title of your thesis will appear in the graduation program. It is not read aloud at graduation, but it's there so that everyone who's there and attending can see the work that you did. Anything else? Research PowerPoint, research compliance, it's all on there. We talked about iCook, we talked about IRB. Sophie has a question. Sophie.
Hi, this is a question about publication. So for those of us who are going to be pursuing commercial publication, it's my understanding that we place an embargo on our thesis, so that, how does that work?
You tell us that you want it embargoed. And there, when you submit your thesis, there's a little box you can check for that.
Great.
But I'm going to say something else to you also. You don't necessarily have to submit like if you're writing a novel, you don't have to submit all 600 pages of your novel. In fact, that really is hard to get. So you can submit a portion or a representative section. What I always appreciate is seeing an introduction that says, this is what I'm doing in this thesis. And then offering representative samples of the work. Now, I haven't talked with Matt about this in a while. So I'm telling you this right now, all of you, and Caroline, excuse me, Dr. Schakowsky and Matt Frank. But that is, to me, the way to resolve some of those issues too. You don't have to just we don't say you have to have at least 50 pages. Because I've never been one for page limit requirements because sometimes that's not appropriate. Some of the thesis projects that we get are 200, 300 pages long. The record is 657. I bet you know where that came from. And you don't have to do that. And that protects you too. That protects your intellectual property. There is an intellectual property policy. It's on Northern's policy database that you can read. The important thing about that intellectual property is that it is your copyright. Professor Strahan's going to talk about this a little bit too. I'm passing the buck on to you. What was I saying? Oh, that Northern owns some intellectual property rights. You have the copyright for your thesis, you and only you. So you will put a little copyright notice on your thesis. And it's yours and it will always be yours. Good question, thank you. Anything else on there? Research committee approval, I think we got a little ahead of ourselves. IACUC, IRB, blah, blah, blah. This is your compliance letter. So remember I said we're gonna see this letter? Don't lose that letter. Get that letter, put that in a very safe place because that's all you need to attach as an appendix or an addendum to your thesis and to your thesis proposal. Letter says it all. You wouldn't believe how many people lose that letter. Don't lose that letter. We do have copies. We can find it for you if you need it.
But not very easily.
It's so much work. I would rather be doing this. So just make sure you're keeping track of that. And that would come to you through, that would be through Cayuse. But you also will receive it via. Says that I'm on there.
Congrats.
Is that?
If you were exempted from IACUC and you just have like, I have like an email from.
Send that email.
Just, is that good?
Yes, if you have an email from Dr. Derek Anderson saying you are, this doesn't count, you don't have to go through IRB, just in case.
IACUC.
IACUC, save that.
Okay.
Because it might be that we get the proposal or we get your thesis and we go, wait a minute, there's chickadees in here. We're worried about the health and safety of those chickadees. Did you intimidate them? Were they stressed? And then we looked, and I'm using that example because there was a thesis with chickadees, and I called Alec, Dr. Lindsay. There's no IACUC, and he was like, "They're chickadees." Were you mean to the chickadees? So, anyways,
Okay.
Good question. Any other question? Don't lose the letter, even if it says you don't have to do this. Just save it. And actually you might, it's usually copied also to your thesis advisor. So your thesis advisor should have it too. Just confirm, make sure that everybody's on the same page. So if you do get that call, you can smugly say, we're all good.
Where's,
Yes.
I've got a meeting to catch at 2:30. Will the rest of this be uploaded to?
Yes, it's gonna be put on the website, and we also are recording the Zoom, so you'll be able to come back and where you left off if you need to leave.
And make sure you do, because we're about to talk about an issue that comes up with the MFA theses in particular, the use of images. My advice, the short version, don't use them. Or don't send us those. That's the short version. But Dr. Strahan, or excuse me, is going to talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you.
So I will be sending this out as soon as I have a copy of the Zoom link. Oh, I won't be sending it out, I'll be sending the link to
And
everybody.
it's the very next, you could like wait 2 minutes. Copyright and fair use in your thesis, yes.
is that last form something we should have got after our IRB approval?
Yes.
Huh.
This one. If you don't have it, find out why.
I don't recall receiving
It
this
would've-
one, so.
Dr. Jordan, you have to know because he's on the committee.
Right.
It would have been an attachment to the email that you got. It wouldn't have just been a letter.
Okay.
The email.
Let us know if you don't have it, well, then we'll find it.
Sure.
IRB, it would have been attached to.
So copyright and fair use, Professor Strahan, if you could do a really quick short version for the students who are leaving real quick.
Letter.
Kind of guilt you. Okay.
Okay, so a really quick thing on copyright, and I'll start with the English. Because there was a student, Lisa, you remember her, but I just can't remember her name.
Don't say it anyway.
Okay, it had to do with, she was writing about horses. And she wanted to include a lot of photos of horses in her thesis, in her creative work. And what I suggested to her is to take them herself, because as the creator of those photos, she would own the copyright to the photos. The big problem that I see often is that people think that because things are available on the internet for free, that it is not protected by copyright law, but it is. It's intellectual property. And what you need to do is not just cite that, but you also need to get permission. So let's say the student I'm talking about had wanted to include 15 photos of horses, and she got it from different websites. You would have to cite each of those. You would also need to get written permission, not verbal permission, but written permission from each of the copyright holders of each of those photos. And so I highly recommend, if you're looking at something like that, seriously consider taking the photos yourself. This also applies to works that are published, parts of works that are published in journals or books or any other type of published form. You need to get permission from the copyright holder for that. If you don't get that copyright permission, like I said, it's in writing. It varies according to which style you're using. A lot of styles have their own permission forms right on their website. And the thing you want to do is or you can just send an email and say, this is what you're doing. Be very honest with these people. You want to tell them what type of, you're writing a thesis, what type of thesis you're doing, how you plan on using these images. And we can, and we're even talking about, for example, a table that was included in a journal article. You need to get permission for that. For example, some books will say in either the preface or on the copyright page, for example, you can use up to 400 words of the book, of the content, without requesting copyright permission. Yes.
I'm gonna interrupt. You got a question?
If the table or the photo is licensed to be used, like it's open resource accessible, you still need to get permission to use it. Like if the table is published, like the copyright just requires that there's an acknowledgement, or just requires that it's not used for like a profit. Like if it's being used in an educational sense, I guess. Do those licenses require permission still for the thesis?
Normally they don't, but I would be on the safe side and still request. They may just send back a form email and say, oh, you don't have to do it. And you would also include all of that correspondence in appendices in your thesis. So I know what you mean. I've seen a lot of those lately. And what you could also do is, if it actually states that, like say the 400 words that you're allowed to use, scan that and include that in your thesis, so you can prove that, oh, I wasn't required to get copyright permission from the copyright holder.
Let me say one more thing really quick. If you take pictures of people that go in your thesis, you need permission from the people who are in the image in order to publish it. So I don't know, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
I know you've got another place to go, so if you have further questions, Professor Strahan is available, right, Mike?
Yes,
So
I am.
better be safe than sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so in the NMU thesis guidelines, there are certain things that you have to follow, certain things that you have more flexibility with. And I know Lisa usually talks about that later. One of the things that I do want to mention is that in the introductory portions, you need to specify what style you are using. And if there's an addition of it, you also have to specify that. And you also need to include, for the purpose of the library, on the copyright page, you need to indicate your full name, and that will also be included, because every thesis that is produced by students at Northern, it's also part of our library. It's added to our library catalog. We have a link to it. You're going to be uploading your thesis to the NMU Commons, and you'll also have an entry, and all of those entries also not just reside in our library catalog, but also in WorldCat, which is a worldwide library catalog. So the world can have access to it through a variety of ways, not just using Google, but also through more standard sources that are used by other libraries and also by other students and faculty.
Isn't that exciting? You will be in WorldCat, for those of you who use WorldCat, and ProQuest. People can find you, and they do. Yes, go ahead. Try. Questions? I want to just reiterate one thing that Professor Strahan said. If you are using even like a chart from an article, like a journal article, and referring to that citation, but also permission to use that image. Images are where we run into trouble sometimes. We have to be very cautious for some of the reasons that I mentioned at the very beginning. We don't want trouble later. Just like you are the copyright owner of your thesis, no one can use your stuff either without getting permission from you. I'm pointing, sorry, that's rude. But so you'll be the one on the other side of that maybe someday if somebody wants to say your work.
The other thing I'll mention regarding US copyright is that if you are using a source that is published by the US government, double check whether it says anything about copyright permission. Normally, most of the things that is published by the US government is not copyright protected, and therefore you would not need to get permission in order to include it. I even get questions on occasion where students ask me the other extreme, where they would ask, well, I want to quote from a published article, do I need to get permission? And I tell them, well, it depends upon really what, you know, is it an extensive quote? Are we talking about like paragraphs or something like that? You know, then definitely, but otherwise you don't need permission, for example, just to cite sources, you know, and then we get crossed over into the plagiarism aspect of things.
Yikes. Notice on the third bullet, this is written by you and unpublished. So if there's something that you have already published, and this happens more often than you might think, that part of your thesis isn't technically your thesis. You have to cite that. Even though you're citing yourself, you still cite it. And this is part of the issue that we run into sometimes is that if you're in biology, for example, and you've been working collaboratively, so now you're going to say, this is all mine. Yes, it is. Yes, 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 it is. Yeah. Dr. Leonard and I go round and round about this sometimes, but it is your work. You are acknowledging the work of others in your acknowledgement page and in your citations, but the thesis itself is yours.
And if there's questions, if the graduate school has questions about any type of copyright issue, they will contact me and I will review it and give my opinion.
So ask Professor Strahan early. He's out and he's very, very helpful. So
I did have to send some. I just started reviewing these last semester, and I definitely had to use him as a resource. And he was very helpful.
a reference librarian, for heaven's sake, they
Imagine
know
how helpful he
everything.
is. Imagine how helpful he is if you ask him beforehand and you don't have to go through submitting it and then being rejected, you know, having it turned back to ask about those things, so.
Okay, collaborative work, we just talked about that. I think we covered all of this. You, talk to your thesis advisor. Another thing, like I said to the MFA, if there's something that doesn't go in your thesis, but the thesis as you write it is approved, that's fine. We don't know what you didn't. We only know what you did put in. So, you know, there's some movement for you there, if necessary. And I think we talked about all this, blah, 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 blah. Dedication is for personal acknowledgements. Acknowledgements is for professional. You have 2 areas to work with. It can only be a page. So that's why the dedication page is there too. So you can acknowledge the people who have personally been involved in your work.
So you're like acknowledging like your whole committee like by name.
Or if there's like family or a significant person who just was supportive of you outside of work. If you want to like say, we were great.
Really like everybody
You know,
in the
that's
graduate
good.
office. They were amazing. Thank you.
Shucks. But that goes in the dedication. And you can do whatever you want there. We're not going to tell you, no, that's just, we don't think that that's appropriate. You swear. But the acknowledgement page is for citation style, acknowledging the work of others that have influenced you, acknowledging if you have used other work that was in. If you've received funding, then so you could acknowledge Northern Michigan University if you are here on a TA-ship. That's nice. But you want anyone who's reading that to know you were special enough to get a TA-ship.
Would you like acknowledge specific department or just the whole?
I would say the university. That's what I know. Really just kidding.
They're all gonna come through with your name on them.
They will come with it like.
Yes, you can see all of them. They're on the commons. And you can see the ones that came this last semester if you want to, or we can go back 10 years. I have been in this role for 8 years. So my goal is always consistency. Expectation is everything. Everyone needs to know exactly what to expect. We also started digitizing everything. So there'll be a difference 10 years ago and beyond than there is now. So that influences where you said. But yeah, they're all there. Literature review, I think you can take a look at this if you want to. Some of you will be required to write literature reviews. Literature reviews can vary by program and by advisor, so you will follow your advisor on the literature review, but sometimes it's confusing to think about what is a literature. So we have included this, and this you'll be able to.
Yeah, there's gonna be a link sent out. I'm gonna put it on the website, so you'll always have access to it. You won't have to lose an email. It's also linked to our grad studies page, along with the Zoom video that we're taking today. So.
Defense, it really isn't less scary than it sounds. Thesis defense, defense can be scary, so let's just call it what it is. But what I always say is that no one was ever as interested in my work, ever, except when I was defending my master's thesis and my dissertation. All these people read every word, and they had questions for me. It was great, because nobody will ever do that again, except your own students if that's the route. But it's so it is scary. You obviously your thesis advisor will be walking you through it. Each department does these a little bit differently, and you follow what your departmental guidelines are. If you have issues or concerns, again, you let us know early so that we can intervene and help if we need to. It's harder later when things, everybody gets stressed, timelines get compressed, and it's to just be proactive as you are. And you're not defending after you submitted. You're defending before. So April 5th, you're here if you're planning to submit this semester. So you should have defended before that. But they're telling you this already. This format, here it is. Da, da, da. Why, you ask? Why? Why do I have to format a thesis in this archaic way? I do this in the way that I want to, that my journal would require, et cetera, et cetera. No, do it this way. It's a rule. This is universal. No matter what institution you are attending, you will be formatting your thesis. And should you go on for a PhD, your dissertation in this way. You can blame the University of Michigan. UMI, remember UMI, Professor Strahan? Now it's ProQuest, but this is the expectation for a thesis project. That's why you have all of those very specific, here's your abstract, here's your acknowledgements, you get 1 page, go beyond. Can't make it small little font, can't make it great big font. It's to be exactly this. It started, just so you know, maybe Professor Strahan, if you want to step in here too, when the microfiche and microfilm happened, or when they were bound, then you had to have a 2-inch margin on the left. Because they would be bound. Sorry? And we don't do that here, but we can help you figure out how to get that. There are a lot of people who have to do that. We used to have hard copies in the library. Now we have it on the. That's why you have the thesis signature page. That page shows up in your thesis. And I think it's really important for you to remember that your faculty members are putting their name on your work. And so and I am too, because I signed those. I'm not signing it unless I know that I'm okay with that. That's why we go through there's one, you know, no. I'll just say there's one out there from a long time ago. I've been doing this for a long time. God, I hope. We have this on our webpage. Take a look at it. Very straightforward. We do not deviate from that format at all.
It's literally a step-by-step manual on how to format your thesis.
It's very funny.
It is kind of funny, and it's exactly like how to do it, how to format it, what it needs to look like. And it's so important. I would print it off. I would take notes in the margin, and I would carry it around with me when I'm doing my thesis, because it's so important that you follow that formatting.
That's the people who have done it before you, if you know anyone. Maybe they can like give you theirs so you can just erase their text, but the formatting is also there. But and here's where all the pieces parts go. So the signature page has to come to us in hard copy. And we've gotten a little bit more flexible about that because of COVID. So we would run them through Right Signature. I think most of you have probably seen something from Right Signature, but if you haven't, this is what we use to sign forms. It's an official document signing, so that we know the person who signed the Right Signature is the person who was supposed to sign. But there is really something about having those, we call them wet signatures, real pen signature from the real people who are proud of you, who have been working with you all the way through. It just is a little bit different than pretty much anything else, because you don't see publications with the actual wet signatures very often, and that will be part of your thesis. So may not show up within the document itself. We attach them sometimes depending upon the thesis project itself, but those are really important. And it's just a proud moment to. So we keep it on file forever. You can see how many we have. It used to be 2, but you don't have to do that anymore. Don't let anybody tell you you have to have 2 signature pages, because you don't. The reason that there used to be 2 is because the hard copy went into the library. Now it is digitized and on the Commons. Mike, can you think of anything else for that part?
No, I can't.
There's a signature page.
The one that you include with your thesis, though, is unsigned.
Can't be signed yet. It's not done. I'm not signing it until it's on. So you want to submit and walk away because you have done your part, and then it's time for us to work. And I'm the last signer on those.
But it's not published with the signatures. It's just
It's weird because, well, that's a different issue. We can talk about that later.
okay.
But you have that, and we have that. You include the unsigned one in the thesis, and we scan the signed one in, so it's connected to your thesis.
I will say that sometimes on thesis committees I've served on in the past, it was a really big deal to sign off on the thesis. You would actually, I participated in like little parties with the students and the other committee members, and it would be this finale of you are finally officially done type of celebration, because it is a celebration of your work.
So when you see it, your committee will all have the same date. My date's going to be much later because I don't sign them until they've gone through the approval process. But yeah, they should sign it right there in the defense, hopefully, unless there's more stuff you have to do after your defense, which happens. It's not a big deal, but it can be a drag. You'll do it. It's your thesis. Oh God. Page numbers. Have you had to do this before? It's literally the worst part. Like, this is what hangs people up. So you have your figures. And you have to have the right page numbers for the figures. And do we check those? Do we? Yes, we check those.
And it's a cross between Roman numerals and regular numerals.
It is.
But if you go to the website and print up that formatting document, it tells you exactly how to do it, step by step.
Oh. Again, where I'm going to say, if you have a bunch of images, you have to list each note. Images are important. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. Outdoor rec, maybe you want to show this is where we were, this is what we did, before, after, whatever. You need them. That's great. You can do this. It's not that bad. It's just a big pain. And it's not what you're here for your intellectual growth. You're doing this research. You're so excited. And then you add it. Somebody asks you to change something. So then it changes the page numbers. And then you have to go back and make sure they're all the same.
And do check, because sometimes page numbers will be going, then all of a sudden they'll start back at a different number that's already. It really does change it. So check the whole document if you do have to.
They can submit PDFs though, right?
But
Because I know what I see the document, the Word doc and PDF sometimes. Most of the time,
I think
PDF
it's PDF that I'm looking at.
should be. You want, because that's not gonna get moved. That's it. Oh, we talked about this. Defend your thesis, committee signs, make revisions. I will say in items 2 and 3, sometimes those are transposed. Your committee may say, we're not going to sign this until you make. That's just going to be whatever your committee decides to do. Then the chair committee, they approve the final one. You upload it. Then we send a review email to your chair, and the chairs go, why am I reviewing this? I just did. Well, we're asking them. We don't want any comments in there. We don't want them to say, oh yeah, whoops, we forgot to say that this student should have put something else on page 6. No. They're just confirming that the thesis that you upload is the one that was approved. No one's pulling a fast one anywhere. Not that anybody would, but that's what we need to know. So your advisor will get that email. Most of them already know this, but every once in a while, there's someone who's this advisor here. They get confused. I have to review this again. Okay, they say I will. And then I'm going to note 200 things that the student needs to do. And then I call them. You've already approved this thesis. You're not putting the student through that. All I'm asking is this is the one that you approved, because you already did that. You don't get another chance. Revisions, of course. Should we ask for revisions? That's an entirely different story. Then you have to do those, whatever they are. Usually they have to do with copyright. That's when we have Professor Strahan get involved too, because we just want to make sure that we're not demanding too much or not enough, or it's a formatting issue. So we're not gonna worry about your content. That is your faculty advisor, just the format.
And just so you know, sometimes your advisor will approve something that is not formatted correctly. So just so you know, it happens, so, once you get it into the commons, there is a possibility that you could have to go back and do some formatting, and that's okay.
Don't be mad. We're just looking out for you. That's really frustrating. And you might get a terse email because we feel bad. We're just gonna tell you this is what you gotta do. That's it. Just
I
okay?
have a quick question.
Yes.
So if you have like part of your thesis, you like that published in the paper, and then the graduate office wants like revisions on it, does that still have to be like?
No,
changed?
that's already published
It's
and
already
you
published,
can
okay.
say as published in, and then you put the citation
Okay.
for that. We are not gonna change anything that has been published. You can't. It's been through peer
Double
review, it's been through all that, we think we're pretty tough, but that is your work. You're citing yourself. Cool. Let me see, anything else, blah, 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 blah. That's it. Here's the comments. We'll have this link, go check it out, see what else is up there. See, get some examples that way. Don't let us know if you find something that we missed. Because it's too late, it's already up on ProQuest. But we don't want you to be the one that has an issue with this. That's why we do what we do. It's also representing your department, you're representing your program, you're representing Northern Michigan University and the College of Graduate Studies and Research. So we're just double checking and making sure. There it is. There's the embargo option. We talked about that a little bit. You can embargo. And the rules for this have changed a little bit over the years. Sometimes we would say 2 years, sometimes we would say 5 years. Now we can limit it to only being available to the university. So it's only going to show up at Northern, not the whole wide world. That's one method of embargo. And we can talk more. That's a separate meeting if you want to have a meeting about embargoes, or you can call and let us know what you're worried about, and maybe there's a way that we can help you out and not have
Good idea for some workshops.
to. Why would I embargo?
Right.
It used to be, if you want, it used to be that embargoes were very bad. No, we don't embargo because we are a state-funded institution. We are required to share the knowledge that comes out of this institution with the people of Michigan, with the people of the United States. Of course, now it's the world, because we have been funded by these different sources. The same is true to a lesser extent now than it used to be. It is an ethical issue. Due dates. And you can always check on those. They're always 4 weeks before the end of this month. So we have time to go through them all. April's very, very busy. We do not budge on the April deadline because we don't have time. There's no way that we could get it all done before the end of this semester. Actually, we don't budget on December. We don't want to budget on July. And questions? Everything's here. Yes.
For registering for thesis credits, do you need to submit the credit request form for each semester that you'll be
Yes.
taking them? Okay.
Yes, so we will register you. We get that from your advisor. You've signed it, your advisor has signed it, the department head has signed it, and then it comes to us. And that's to make sure that nobody gets an R grade that they can't. That's happened in the past. I don't want anybody to transfer.
The advisor can also submit it blank, like just with like your information and what your class you're gonna take without the signatures, and we can put it through RightSig and send it to all people.
Oh,
So then it's just like electronic signature. You sign it, then it goes to the next person until it's done.
Okay. Yeah. And I don't sign it till everybody else does. So I always see them all.
So my only question was on formatting, I guess. So everything goes by what the manual, the guidebook says, right? Like no matter what, that's what we go with. So introduction, 4 spaces underneath of it, or 2 double spaces, I guess. Like, so no matter what style you're using, that's how it'll be presented. correct?
And I know in HHP, I don't know if it's still a requirement in all three of the graduate programs with thesis projects, but the students were required to submit to a journal. Like there might be a chapter, and I don't know if Scott's or Dr. Jordan's doing that, but we still had to have that in the thesis format, and then you can take that and reformat it for the appropriate journal. But if you have a very specific citation method because you're submitting to a journal, that's fine. Just tell us what it is and be consistent throughout. Doesn't have to be APA, doesn't have to be MLA, doesn't have to be Turabian. Is that even a thing anymore? Probably not. I'm showing you how old I am. Professor Strahan, do you remember Turabian?
I never used Turabian. I used the official University of Chicago style.
So
But
anyway,
one of the possibilities could be for exercise science and HHP or is like MSSE is one format. There's quite a number of different journal specific styles that they could be using.
tell us what it is. It doesn't fine. Whatever your advisor tells you to do, whatever your field is the most appropriate, it's fine. We're not trying to tell you everything to do, only how to form. And don't use things that you don't have permission to use. That's it. Piece of cake, right? There you go. We're always here to help, and you probably can get some tips from other students who are going through the formatting. Like if you use this key, does this thing. Yeah.
Could I show them something before everybody leaves?
Sure.
Okay. Matt gave me screen sharing, so, oh no, he took it away.
You can Mike share.
Oh, I don't know how this works. I'm sorry.
Is there a link that you can put in the chat?
Captions.
Or is it something you have on your?
At the
What I
bottom.
wanted to do was show students how to get to the dissertations and theses database, the global one that is provided by ProQuest. What I'll do is we'll add it to the slide deck, and we'll do it that way.
That is a really important resource for you.
So that way you can look at what other dissertations and theses written since the 1700s have discussed your research topic.
That's when they had to write them out by hand.
It indexes basically
In cursive.
over 3 million. We have access to the full text of 3 million. I think it's up to 5 million now indexing. So globally.
No, I'm sorry. I can't figure out how to get you to share because I'm not on I don't know how to run all of this properly.
That's okay.
We'll add it.
We'll add it to the slide deck.
Thanks for coming.
May I put you, may I put your contact information on the end of this slide as well? So if people have questions, your contact information is with mine.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you.
Thank you. All the way from Madison, Wisconsin, Milwaukee,
Not
Wisconsin.
Madison, Milwaukee.
Okay,
The other M.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.
You know where we are.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
And feedback is good. Good feedback. This is wonderful.
Yeah, man, John.
Yo, John.